context, we're keeping this in its context. We're talking about the top of the pyramid. As we move down based on other people's maturity in the Lord, I do give people words of wisdom and words of knowledge sometimes that are much more vague than the Christ, right? But if I'm being honest, almost all the time, I'm discerning their life through the Christ, even if they know I'm doing it or not, right? I'm telling them about that. It's like when God, before we came here, and God told me to be praying Luke 4:18 over my life. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for He hath anointed me to preach the gospel. You guys all know that verse. Well, when I first heard that from God clearly, I was like, yeah, I was doing it all the time. I called my mom. I was like, listen, you guys be praying this over your life. Be meditating on it. And then about 2 weeks before we're set to move, I hear a voice tell me, you can't pray that. You're not Jesus. What are you thinking, man? You've lost your mind. Only Jesus can say that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not Jesus. What am I thinking? Am I arrogant? What the? And so I immediately became very confused. And then I immediately became confused about everything. I started saying, oh, what are we thinking? We're going to go start a church from nothing. We're not under anybody's umbrella. What are we doing? Oh my gosh, we can't do this. I'm riding around every day filled with fear when I was so certain. And it was like a week before we came, and I got up there to tell the church we were going to what we were going to do, like 10 minutes at the end. And I said goodbye to everybody, and inside I'm still like, man, I don't know if we're actually going to do it. Because how's this going to work? Yeah. And then I'm saying goodbye to everybody, and the whole time I'm watching this guy sitting in the back that I've never seen before, just sitting back there by himself waiting. He waited for a long time. I'm like, what is this guy? Who is this guy? And after everybody said their goodbyes, he came up to me and he said, you know, I've never been to Colorado and I've never been to this church. But I'm a Navajo Indian and I was in New Mexico and God told me to take vacation in Colorado and He told me to come to this church. He said, so I came last week and nothing happened. And so I said, well, why am I here? God said, come back the following week. The funny thing is I was supposed to be there the week before, but something came up at my job so I couldn't be. And so God says, come back the next week to this guy. And so he comes up to me and he tells me all that. And he says, you know, I went through all of church again this week and I'm thinking still, why am I here? And he said, and then you got up and talked. And then, you know, the next thing he said out of his mouth to me was, the Spirit of the Lord is upon you, for He hath anointed you to preach the gospel to the poor. He quoted that verse to me that I was busy praying, thinking that I was now a lunatic for saying it. And then he immediately went into this whole thing about my life and how God has put every gift inside of me and I'm going to flow in every single gift. Apostle, and started telling me all of that. Then he started telling me, you're going to the exact right place at the exact right time. And that everything God has showed you is as it is. And that you're not crazy. And he started telling me all of this stuff. Okay? Well, that brought peace to me. All right? I was like, okay, I am going. Now, in reality, had I been more secure in the word that is Christ, I wouldn't have needed that. But I was still growing. Yeah. It's not a negative that I got that. Right. But like 6 months later, when we were busy trying to plant the church, and it didn't look so good, man, I needed another word. And I messaged that guy, trying to get another word, because he wanted my number so he could track along with this. And I know he told me this too also by the inspiration of God. You know what he told me when I messaged him trying to get another word? You know what he messaged me back and said? He said, you're the prophet, brother. I'm the one in need of a word from you.
Whoa. Whoa.
And I was like, and see, he wasn't talking about him needing me to read his mail. He was saying, God has touched my mouth and put the word of Christ in my mouth. And he's now in need of that word that he knows God had put in my mouth. Do you see? Yeah. Big difference there. So when we look at words of wisdom and words of knowledge, that's at the top. That's how we define it. And then from there we can come down. Does that make sense? You guys understand that? And so that's what that message really was.
And usually that's a confirmation.